How's it going, everyone? This is Carlos making a quick video on the MEP802A, basically air filter, fuel filter, water separator, and oil change. I looked around and I didn't find any videos showing how to change the air filter or change the fuel filter, so I figured I'll go ahead and videotape myself doing it and make it available, so that way if anyone else needs it, it'll be available going forward. So let's see how this journey turns out for us. I'm going to start with doing the air filter. So again, I have no idea. This is the first time I'm doing it. I ran the generator today. I ran it for about 30-40 minutes, making sure that everything warmed up. And now looking around, it looks like I may have a little bit of wetness there. So we're going to have to look to see where that's coming from. Other than that, everything else looks good. So the first things first, I believe to change the air filter, we have that screw right there. I'm gonna unscrew it. That should let me take off this back half of the canister, where I should be able to replace the air filter. All right, I got it buttoned up. Gotta make sure that you use the washer over here that comes with your filter. I removed this one from the wing nut and I installed the one provided with the filter. Looks good, looks nice and tight. So I will be putting back on the bottom half of that canister and tightening up the screw to hold it in place. I apologize for my video breaking up and jumping around a little bit, but I normally don't do these types of videos and I don't have a stand or anything, so I'm having to pick up the phone, shoot some video, and then put it down, do the work, and then come back. So, but I think at the end of the day, this will be informative to someone who is trying to do this filter changes. All right, well, I'm gonna put this top on. It looks like there's a small vent at the top of here, and on the outside of this it has a top. So make sure that when you are installing it again, you put it facing the correct way. All right, one thing I forgot to say was, since I'm doing the oil and air filter, fuel filter, water separator, when I started to drain the oil, here's the oil drain. Mine came with this elbow here. I screwed it in here and got a hose, and I dropped it down into a gallon of an empty gallon, so that way what I'm trying to see is how much oil I capture. So that way I'll make sure that I put back at least that much and make sure that it is at the correct operating level. Also, I made sure, using a level, I made sure that the trailer was level to make sure that I get as much oil out as possible. I have the trailer actually leaning towards the back, which is where the oil comes from. See that line right there? That's where the oil comes out of. So I'm making sure that all of the oil drains towards that location. And I also made sure that the trailer was level side to side and a little bit leaning towards the back where the oil drains at. So that way I could get as much oil as I can out of the unit. So far, that's been simple enough. There's a valve shut off here for the oil. It was closed. When I took out this plug from here, there was oil there, which dripped all over the place here. Not too bad, but just capturing it all. So after I'm done draining, I will close this valve off and then I would just let it sit for a while to let all of the oil kind of drain out the elbow and the hose, and before I disconnect this to try and avoid making a mess over here. All right, filter was pretty tight, so I ended up using a set of channel locks. Grabbed it, twisted it, make sure there's no gasket left behind. Everything looks clean. I'll just wipe that down. I oiled the seal on the new one, and then I am going to put it on. Hey guys, all right, so I am done draining the oil out of the generator. So after all said and done, I was able to capture right at 3 quarts out of the generator. I think that's pretty good, considering I believe the capacity for this generator is 3.2 quarts. So I know I have a little bit of oil left in the oil filter, and there's probably a little bit left in the crankcase. So feel pretty good about the amount of oil that I got out of it. That's what I expected, so I'm happy with that. Coming over here, I removed the elbow for the oil drain line, and I put the plug back in. I also shut off the valve to the oil drain line and installed a new filter. I hand tightened that nice and snug. No need to use a tool. It will tighten up a little bit more as the heat gets to it. Previous oil filter, I believe, was put on with a wrench or something because it was tight and hard to come out. So again, no need to get crazy. Hand tight, nice and snug, should be more than enough. I'll also double check once I run it to make sure I have no leaks. I'll be putting 3 quarts of oil in it, and then I'll be using the crank, the dead crank switch, so that way I could move the oil around inside the filter. Once I do that, I'll go ahead and turn the engine on for about 2 minutes, let it fill the oil filter, let it go through all the lines, everything, and then I'll check the oil level and make any adjustments needed at that time. But so far, I'm very happy with what I got going on here. All right, gonna tackle the fuel filter. That's this right here. You have a screw on the bottom of that with an 11mm nut. I busted it loose, and I put my little cup there to catch any fuel coming out of the filter, so that way I don't make a mess in the inside of the generator. So I'm just working on pulling that bolt out, which in turn will let this whole canister come off. All right, I was able to get it out, no problem at all. So there's also an oil ring that goes on the base, so you want to make sure you take out the old one and put your new one in. This is the new filter. It's got a big hole on one side, small hole on the other one. The big hole fits right in there, you see it? That's where it fits at. So you want that to be up. There's also a little spring on the screw, so you want to make sure you put it in right. Sit it in there nice and tight. Make sure it's where it needs to be, and then just screw it back in place. Now the whole lid is moving, but I'm not worried about that. But now once it snugs up against that gasket, I'm not gonna spin it any longer. It feels nice and snug, so I'm not gonna push it anymore. Once I run it, I'll check it for leaks, and if I need to tighten it up anymore, I will. I don't want to tighten it more than I have to and cause myself a problem. I'm sure there's probably torque specs to this, but I don't have them, so I'm using the German torque specs. Just make sure they're Guten tight. All right, now that the fuel filter has been changed, I'm gonna move over to the water separator, I guess. That's this one. I am going to open up the valve on the bottom, and that valve comes out to this hose. I'll capture any fuel that I can here, and then I'll remove that and replace it. Woo! What's happening, people? So I'm gonna tell you right now, everything's been going really smooth until it's time to move this to remove this water separator. As you can see, I've chewed up the bottom of that filter. I've been using a pair of channel locks to get it, and believe it or not, I've gotten it loose now, so it should be coming off. But oh my gosh, that was so far the hardest thing to do since I started this. Oh my gosh, I don't know if it's that they tighten them up too tight. I don't know if it's that it's been on here since 2017. I don't know what causes that thing to like seize up in there. That was a lot of work. A lot of work and a lot of sweat. There's not much room in there, and I didn't want to have to take off more panels. So I got in there with the channel locks, and I was able to grab it and break it loose. So it's turning now. But I'll tell you what, that was not an easy process. And I'm gonna show you this filter when it comes out, how mangled I got it. Oh my gosh. So, a little rust there, I guess. Maybe that's what caused my issue. I'm not sure. But I got it out. All right, so got the water separator out, installed the new one. I wasn't able to put this back on because it's a different size, but I have the information on the filter that came off of it, so I'm gonna order another filter so that way I can put this back on and connect it to the hose that comes out right here at the bottom. So for now, that hose is not connected, and I'm just gonna connect the petcock to the hose so that way I don't lose it. And then I am going to look for another OEM filter. Has the filter part on the side. So I'm gonna go on the internet and look that up so that way I can get the same filter and replace it. All right guys, I think I am done for the day. So after I changed all the filters, I went ahead and put oil in her, and then what I did was I used the dead crank in order to get the oil going into this oil filter before it completely turned on. I also turned on the prime, and I let it prime for a while so that way I could see if I could get all the air out of the lines so I don't have trouble starting it. Remember, I changed the fuel filter and I changed the water separator filter back here with the oil filter and the air filter up top. So after that, I came and did a little bit of a mess with some oil spills and stuff. So I got some gunk and I sprayed it all down, and then I came back and I wet it down, and now I'm gonna crank her up. Hopefully she'll start, and then I'll let her run to temperature, help evaporate some of this water that I've had to spray in here, and then she's ready for when she's needed. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. Sorry I did not have a stand for my phone and had to keep moving around, but I didn't find any videos that gave me this information, so I wanted to put it out there to help the next person. Thanks. All right, here we go. Here we go.